John. Good morning.
Good morning.
I have to tell you, it's good to see you.
All right, good to have you.
And it's good to be seen.
That's right.
Folks that know me know that that's one of my statements. Because you see, there are a lot of us that are here this morning. But many of us cannot see some of the others that are here with us. Is that right?
That's right.
So I am glad for both those of us who can be seen and those who cannot. I'm excited to be back before you again, and I guess that we have about 20 or so minutes to visit John, and I want to put this up here because that reminds me so that Eros will not have to pull my coattail. If I get a little long-winded, she has a tendency to say, you know. So it's good to see you. I, for a moment, a little bit earlier, thought that Dave Brubeck and George Benson it seemed to me that Chris and Philip were over there, but instead I thought that George Benson and Brubeck had walked in and decided to serenade us.
All right.
Big fun. Do you guys always have this much fun?
Oh,
We're coming back.
Oh, yeah.
We're coming back because it's good to be here. Good morning and almost happy Valentine's Day. February 14th, I believe. And happy Lenten season to you. It's good to be back with you, and it's good to know that all is well with my friends at Open Heart. I am Robert McMillan, and I'm president of the Center for Universal Intelligence. They always tell us to say that because if we can't remember that part, where the best is already gone. It's over. So I want to let you know that I remember who it is that I am. I was chatting with Delia. Is it Delia?
Zalia.
What is
Zalia.
Zalia, and she let me listen for a moment to her phone is bigger than mine. And it's prettier, and you know, it's just awesome. And those earphones, you know, they are just awesome. So thank you, man. I really appreciate that, and knowing that all is well. John mentioned that he and I are good friends, and we are kindred spirits, spiritual brethren traveling this path of life. And today I want to talk with you all for a few moments about spiritual awareness. I want to talk with you about how it is that God shows up when we show up in the world as we should. Did you get that? Sometimes I speak quickly, so let me know if I'm going too fast and I'll try to back it up. But sometimes, you see, there are things in life that come about that we need to be aware of what's happening, because otherwise a blessing will have come our way and we missed it. Anybody here beside me ever missed a blessing? Right. But I have decided, I think that's from the Latin word desir, which means to decide. I have decided that where I need to be is always in what we call the will of God. Have you heard that term before? We always want to be in the will of God. Well, what is the will of God? Well, the will of God can only be good. And so this morning, as we talk about agape love, God love personified. And that means that we are going to talk about another aspect of agape love that utilizes the bridge of spiritual awareness. The late Zig Ziglar, anybody here beside me know and remember who Zig was? Zig understood agape love, and he understood that agape love is unconditional love, pure love, love that loves whether you love me back or not. Isn't that right? Agape, unconditional love. Regardless of how it is that you respond to my love, I'm just going to keep on loving you anyway. And that's real easy to do it. Oh, man. But it is also what is required of us. Because you know what other people think about us is none of our business. What other people think about us is none of our business. So what we have to do is be spiritually in tune to the extent that we then know where it is that we are and what it is that Spirit is requiring of us. Zig Ziglar said this some time ago, and he knew about love. He said this: I love my wife. I mean, I love my wife. As a matter of fact, I love my wife so much that if my wife leaves me, I'm going with her. Now that's love, isn't it? That's love. You cannot leave me because I'll be on the other side by the time you get there. So don't even try it. Forget it. I will be there. That is unconditional love. The Mahabharata, one of the world's Bible, said one should always forgive any injury. It has been said that the continuation of our species is due to humankind being able to forgive. And so forgiveness, the Mahabharata says, is then forgiveness. Paramahansa Yogananda from the Second Coming of Christ, Volume 2, in the Lord's Prayer, as it relates to forgiveness, says this: and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. In that one sentence is expressed the cosmic law of and the karmic law of cause and effect as applied to human life. We consider and agree that love, especially this time of year, love is sensual and sexy. Love is endearing and life-affirming. And so, I mean, it's all of those things if you kind of have somebody that you want to hug and hold on to it. But for others who don't seem to have what the world, all of the channels that we listen to and watch tell us to have, see, then means that, well, there must be something wrong with us. Nothing is wrong with us, because the first love that we have to have before we love anybody else is self-love. How can I love you if I don't first love me? And I have to learn how to love you by loving. And in loving you, then I am giving of myself. And as I give of myself, I then have more room inside to receive the love that is important. And all of us know that that love is important. So what's the first step then, Robert Mack, in loving? Well, it goes back to that word forgiveness. Forgiveness. You all were reading the book, the first book I read by Dr. Joseph Murphy was The Cosmic Energizer. Then I read the one that you're reading now, is Power of Your Subconscious Mind, I believe it is. That's the one that you're going through. I called Dr. Murphy in California. I was in Little Rock, Arkansas, and a friend of mine had given me the book, The Cosmic Energizer. And she had given me that book. She and I attended college together, and her father was the president of my college in Little Rock, Philander Smith College. And so I was in pain, and I was challenged because I didn't know exactly what to do or which way to go. And so my friend, Dr. Naisha Hazard, who was also a religious science minister, gave me the book, The Cosmic Energizer, because my wife and my 2 children had died in the fire. And so I was at a space on a place where I didn't know what to do, where to go, or how to get there. Anybody been there beside me? Of course you have. And if you haven't, as my granny used to say, baby, just keep on living. I promise you. And so when I read that book by Dr. Murphy, and I read about what I needed to do in order to be complete, because I was not complete. I was broken. There's a wonderful gospel song that we used to sing over in Little Rock when I was there with the Little Rock Community Choir, and it was called A Broken Sparrow. Anybody ever heard that? A Broken Sparrow. And it was a very beautiful song, and it talked about God breaking all of the pieces back together of my broken heart that day. And so that was where it was that I was. And so when I called Dr. Murphy, he said, listen, It's okay. Because what you need to do is just know that who it is that you are is exactly where you are right now and where you need to be. And think about this. Think about all of the joy and the peace and the love and the goodness that your 30-year-old wife, your 10-year-old daughter, and your 6-year-old son brought into your experience. And if you had to change, if you had to trade, would you trade all of that love and light and goodness and grace for this pain that you are now feeling? And what was my answer? My answer was no. No, I would not. Because that outweighed what I was considering at the time to be the bad. Everybody with me on that? Mm-hmm. So I read that book and I followed Dr. Murphy's suggestions in terms of healing and wholeness. And I found, like you all are finding, and like many of us have found together, that when we work this thing, it does what? It works. Dr. Nelson told us that, didn't she? She said when we work it, it works. But that doesn't mean, don't get the big head about it, that it's not always working, because it is. It's just not working for you. You turn around and you start working in, it will do what? Start working for you, right? So I want for us to know that all of the things that happen in life happen for a reason. Now I know John has told you that. I know Emma has shared that with you through dance, through all of the wonderful things that she is doing in life. And I know that many of you have experienced it personally. But do you always believe that? Do you always believe that? Stop lying. I heard what you didn't say. And I know that we don't, because that is why we are here, right? To continue expanding, learning, growing, and being. So, what is spiritual awareness all about? Well, this little story of a gentleman who worked at a factory illustrates, I think, what it is all about. Every day, this young man approached the work area where they put all their tools up. And this guy, who was the guard there, would stop him every day and say, hold it a minute. Wait. No. Hold it just a minute. And he would stop him as he pushed his wheelbarrow up to the gentleman, and he would fling the tarp back. He'd look at it, and then he would look underneath it, and then he'd look on the sides of it, and then he'd look at the guy again. Then he'd throw the tarp back on there. So go ahead. Well, this continued on and on and on. Week after week after week, month after month after month. So finally the guy stopped him again. And he said to the guy, he said, sir, listen, I don't understand why you're doing this every day to me. Every day that I'm here, you stop me. And the guy said, look, I know you're stealing something. I know that you are stealing, and I can't figure it out. I have tried. I have done everything in my power to figure it out, but I don't know. Look, I tell you what, I'm not going to tell our boss. I'm not going to hold anything. As a matter of fact, I'm going to give you $500 if you just tell me what it is that you're stealing, because I know that you have been stealing. And the guy thought, he looked at me, he said, $500? Mm-hmm. And you won't tell the boss? No, you won't tell the boss. Well, okay. And nothing will happen. Nothing will happen. So, okay. I'll tell you what I've been stealing. He said, what have you been stealing? Wheelbarrows. Sometimes things are so subtle. Every day he had been pushing this wheelbarrow. The guy would pull the tarp back, see what was inside of it, look around underneath it, and then he would just walk on out the door with what? The wheelbarrow. How many of us are guilty of that as well? Are we missing the spiritual points in life? Are we allowing God's tidbits of information to pass us by? That's why we're here, ladies and gentlemen. Do you have any idea the numbers of people that passed through that door, by that door, rather, this morning alone? And a lot of those people, and I was kind of sitting there, and so I would look over and see people passing by, like those folks are passing by now. And don't you imagine, as I did and as I do, that a lot of those people that are passing by have some of the same challenges that we have? But what happened when we walked, when you came through that door? Didn't you feel that burden just lift? Didn't you feel the energy of this music, of that meditation experience, of the kinship and the fellowship and the brotherhood and the sisterhood of all of us invite you into life and love, and then you embrace that, and then that went right out the window, didn't it? Now you know that if you choose to, as soon as you walk out the door, you pick it up again, and you can be just as miserable as you want. We're not going to hold that against you. It's your trip on this place called Earth, and we're going to let you have it. But if you choose to, then you can choose to not do that. I was watching the slides that were playing, and all of the words, and the interesting thing is, don't ever sit in the very first row if you want to watch the slides, because by the time you get through craning your neck up to see it, it's a little different when you miss some of the words, okay? But even with that, I then saw the words that were a part of that, and each of those words made me remember something, you see. And I don't know if you put that together, John. I know that it's a collection of different people, but it is awesome. And I want for you to know that that doesn't happen everywhere in the world. In all of the churches, the mosques, the synagogues, and what have you that I go to and speak, that doesn't happen. So be proud of what is going on with you. How is it that we respond to our children? Like this little person that's in the back. We look at them and we say, wow, you know, really, really neat. And they're with us every day. But then somebody else comes in and they say, whoa, you are really growing. Goodness gracious, you have gotten so big now. And you're saying all these wonderful words and you're doing all of these great things. OMG. How is it that you are doing all of that? And then you're LOLing. Really? Lord, how is it that you are able to do that? When you look at them as the parent, as the overseer, you say, really? That's what you're saying? Well, why? Because you're with them every day. And so you don't see them in their growth process. Because every day they're growing, but they're growing exponentially. And so because of that, you don't see it and you don't recognize it and you don't know it, but it is what? Still happening. Okay, I want to talk to you about spiritual awareness. You know, there are three types of love, right? Agape, Filial, and Eros, right? Agape love, of course, is the God love, the universal love. The filial love is what we feel for anyone that is challenged, having a problem in life. We should, right? Sometimes we do more than we should, especially with our children, and then that comes back to bite us because we have to know when to let go, don't we? We really do. And most importantly, we have to use agape love to listen to what it is that Spirit is saying in order to know when to let go and when to hold on. You see, sometimes when they are challenging us and just getting on our last nerve, anybody here beside me just had that one last nerve? Yes, absolutely. And when they get on that one last nerve, you say, you know what? Next thing that happens, I'm not kidding, I'm out of here. You know how to go, okay? You know that. I'll take the keys. You can't drive well, you will be able to one day. It'll be okay. But instead, we have this agape love, and we remember. And I'll help you all to know how you remember. Listen to these words and see if this resonates with you. Do you remember your parents, your grandparents, your godparents, your aunts, your great grannies, as mine did, saying to you, it's okay. You know what? Just keep on going. Because one of these days, you're going to grow up. And you're going to have a child, and it's going to be just like you. Of course you do. We all do. And you know what? It comes to pass. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. So agape love, filial love, and eros love, erotic love. That's the type of love that we see in the newspapers and on the television screens, the erotic type of love, and people get caught up in that. But you see, when you have real love, you bring all three of them together. And then you are one in love. And bedroom, let me tell you, that's the space to be in. That's a wonderful place to be in because everything then just moves as it should. The answers are as obvious as they are oblivious when we are standing on the outside looking in, as they were to the guard who was having wheelbarrows removed from his watch every day. Psychologists and therapists, ladies and gentlemen, tell us that there is a third window of our world from which we cannot see ourselves, and that the only way we can correct that situation is to look at it from the inside out. Remove the feeling energies, disconnect, and then reconnect to see that which was there for us to see all along. Did you get that part? It was always there, and we could have if we had chosen to, if we had known how to. You see, there's a statement that says, everybody's doing the very best they can with what they have. Right? Everybody's doing the very best they can with what they have. Now, it doesn't mean that they shouldn't do better. But until they know better, they cannot what? Do better. And until they know better and then move to do whatever it is that Spirit says they need to do, they will not do better. And if they are your child, you just have to keep praying. Believe me, I know that feeling. Okay. So, what are the blinders that keep us in the dark? I believe that insecurity is a good one. Not feeling good enough is another. And of course, there are times in our lives when we are all blindsided by our own ignorance. That is really a hard one to swallow. But let me share an example in my own life. My ex-wife and I always voted as one. We were Democrats, but if someone was in sync with our values, understood our concerns, and was willing to work with us to bring those things about for the betterment of our community, our country, and they happened to have been Republicans or independents or whatever, we voted for them because that was the right thing to do. One evening I had gone home early to prepare for our going to the polls together and to then have our watch party with friends at our home. She was already in and we started talking about the candidates. We went down the list until we got to one that I already knew that we agreed upon and that we had talked about before. And we had supported her candidacy in previous elections and had always been pleased with her voting record. I said, and of course, we are voting for blank, blank, blank. And she said, oh no, I'm not voting for her. I said, you're not? She said, no, of course not. I'm not voting for her. And I said, well, wait a minute, dear. You know, we've always voted for her because she is in sync with our values. And she said, oh, no, not anymore. I said, really? She said, no. I said, well, wait a minute, she believes I'm on the right, woman's right to choose. She believes in equality and equity for pay. She said, I know, but I don't believe in all of that stuff anymore. You know? When did you change? Did you send a memo? I didn't get it. Help me to understand how it is that I was blindsided by this. Well, I didn't and was not living from the perspective of what? Spiritual awareness. You getting this? Is anybody serving with me on this? See how quickly it can come in and disturb who it is that we are? Spiritual awareness, along with AGAPE Love, caused me to take my 8-9-month-old baby girl, Jackie, to Stride Right as her mother and I were walking along in Park Plaza in Little Rock, one of those malls. About 30 or so years ago, Jackie won't let me tell you the exact number of years, but she's in that period of time. But I just can't talk about my age. Really? Well, when you get to be as old as I am, you'll wish you had talked about it. But I understand. So my baby girl was just crawling around from space to space, and doing all of the things that little people at 8 and 9 months do, and all of that good stuff. But you know, we said, her mother and I did, why not let's stop in here, walk in here, and see if we can't maybe at least get her little feet fit so that we'll know a month, 2 months, 3 months from now when she's ready. So the little lady that was working with her stood her up. Jackie bounced around and she put the little shoes on, and I looked over at those little white, tiny baby combat boots. You remember the years and years ago, the whole suckers were acceptable. Anyway, so she got them on. looked across the room, and then she looked back at her mother, and she looked back at me, and she cracked up. She just laughed. She turned around and she just took off. And her mother and I are sitting there dumbfounded. And the lady is just looking at us like, I thought you said she couldn't walk. That was before the days of child abuse, okay? And here this baby has walked all the way across the room. She stopped because the wall was there. That was the only thing. And she also stopped because she didn't know how to turn around. Turn her around, she hadn't gotten there yet. So she then waited, looked back at me, said, okay, Dad, come on over here. I ran over there, turned her around, she looked over to where her mom was, and took off. Now, let me ask you this. Why is it that I didn't know already that my baby was ready to walk? And let me give you the answer. It doesn't matter. God took us, guided us, gave us that thought that said, stop by this store. You're certainly with me on this. And when we stopped in that store, a miracle was performed. People have been walking by here all day long. They could have had miracles come into their lives if they had been spiritually aware enough just to do what Spirit was telling them to do. Are you getting this? Is anybody getting this with me? This is good stuff. Okay? All right? This is past graduate level. All right? I want you all to know that. So here is the key, ladies and gentlemen, as I prepare to take my seat. We need to always be aware of God. Always know that when we do our meditations, when we do our prayer work, when we practice and practice and practice singing or our music or whatever it is that we do well, and then we share that with the world, when we share that with people, then Spirit comes in, guides us, directs us in terms of what to do. But unless our channel is tuned to that radio station, we will miss it. You see? So keep your stations tuned right here to Open Heart. Keep your heart in the spaces and the places where it needs to be. Jack Boland, the late minister of the Detroit Unity Center, gave us the mastermind principle. And he let us know that the mastermind principle always works, but it is up to us to make it work in our respective lives. The mastermind spiritual principle says that awareness with agape love, ready, is always ready, willing, and able to bring all the love, all the joy, all the peace, all the healing, all the wholeness that you want anytime that you commit to having that light shine in your darkened hallways and to bring illumination to your weary mind. Today is the day, and right now is the hour for you. It matters not where it is that you are in your spiritual development. There's another spot for you to go up a little higher, right? Don't feel that you have arrived, okay? Because something will come to show you that you haven't. Just get prepared for whatever it is that's going to happen, and then you will be ready when it happens. You will be ready to know that everything is well, and you will be able to LGHI. I wrote that affirmation a little bit later. For those of you who are interested, we'll have some CDs available for you. But I let God handle it as I pray and move my feet in the direction and Spirit is guiding my steps, knowing that God is always the best. And so it is.
And so it is.
Thank you again, Robert, and for just a powerful message.